I'm born and raised. Uh, Went to Monticello High School. That's where I first kind of got the notion of photography. And it's a cliche to say it, but like so many people, my first exposure was Ansel Adams. I mean, and it is. It's a cliche. I mean, it's fantastic. But in the '90s, early '90s, the internet wasn't a thing. So who else was there really? I mean, he's just he's an icon, whatever you might think of him or his work. So that was seeing what you could do, what there was a possibility with a camera. Um, and over time, I branched out and found other photographers, Bill Brandt, Ernst Haas, Keith Carter, Michael Kenna, and somewhat, recently, over the past few years, a photographer, Bill Schwab, who recently passed away at the young age of 65. And he was a dear friend of mine. And he introduced me to a group of other fantastic photographers. And we would go almost yearly on trips to Iceland, which obviously none of this work is from Iceland. And it was a great learning experience. And it also opened me up to so many other photographers, Stephen Shore, Eggleston. I mean, the list can go on and on and on. So yeah, and it's been an on and off thing for probably 20 years, I would say. Um, I worked as a photographer. I worked in the wedding industry for about 10 years. I was a second shooter for most of those years with a local photographer, Michael Bloom, who's a fantastic friend and who someone I learned quite a bit from. Um, and eventually, when I became more comfortable and started doing them on my own, I realized I hated it, absolutely hated it. Worst thing in the world. Hell of a way to spend a Saturday. Uh, and also, if you remember some of the hotels before they closed down, Kutcher's, the Raleigh, I worked as a dinner table photographer, which, okay, everybody knows, yeah, yeah, which was an absolute nightmare. And yeah, that's so I think kind of early on, any notions of doing this commercially or trying to make any kind of living from it was just it's not for me. I just don't. I don't think I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and if I made money, that would be really nice. But there's no expectations of that really. So let's see. So where this all kind of came from is so over the years, you could say I developed an affinity for Irish whiskey, which is a nice way to say I was an alcoholic. So about 2.5 years ago, I finally just got off it and got sober. Just enough. The check engine light was coming on, and that was it. So I finally gave it up. And the thing is, when you give up something like that, you find yourself with an immense amount of time. And how do you fill that time? I mean, I could only clean my house so many times. My spice cabinet is organized for the fifth time. The fridge is clean, everything's good. So 2 weeks after, my cameras, they're right there. They're staring me in the face. Okay, well, why don't we give it a shot again? And before this, like I said, it was really, my photography was intermittent. I never really gave it the time that it deserved to become a better photographer or to develop any kind of style or anything. So yeah, getting off the booze was a great thing just because it gave me back time to devote to this. And so that's what I found myself with. And so I picked up the camera again and with no idea what I wanted to shoot. I mean, the idea was just get out of the house with the camera and see what happens. And before this, in fact, most of the work was black and white and it was square format because when I shot film, I shot with a Hasselblad. And as I transitioned into digital, I kept that square and I kept black and white. But when I came back to this 2.5 years ago, for some reason, I can't explain it. Maybe there's somebody, psychologist here, can tell me about it. It's all color. I Black and white and the square format just doesn't. It just doesn't work for me anymore. I don't know why. I don't have an explanation for it. I don't even know if it's that deep. But here we are, color photographs in 3 to 4 format, uh, which is way different from anything I've ever did over the years. Uh, yeah, and here we are, and and that's in these 2.5 years. It kind of, it started off really slow and with a lot of failure, but it was interesting now. For every couple hundred pictures, you might get one. It was always, what, that's not too bad. I guess that kind of works, and you kind of learn to live with the failure, because anybody who does anything creative, I'm sure you're familiar with just the failure that happens, because it happens all the time, and it's how you deal with it is really the key. Um, and so now, I can deal with. I quit photography every 4 or 5 months. I want to sell all my photos, all my gear, and do something else. But no, it's a little bit easier now. You work through it. You take a break for a couple of weeks, but then you pick it back up again. And so, it's kind of the result of this 2.5 years is just not setting out with any looking for a narrative. I didn't have a project in mind. It was just saying, what if I just kind of stayed close to home and see what I could find? All these things here, all these photographs are places that over the years I've passed by millions of times, but never would have thought, oh, maybe I could try to make a photograph. Um, and so it's what I tried to do. And over time, I started to kind of like what was going on. And it's about finding something catches my eye. How the light, like this one here. I took this, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and it just made sense to me. At first the thing that caught me was the church, but the way the light was kind of fading on the church, and then from there I had to get out of the car in the cold and figure out how to make a picture. And and I think I succeeded somewhat. But it's just building from maybe one little element. Like I said, the light's catching something in the right way, and then I got to work around it and see what I'm gonna leave in the picture, where I'm gonna, what I'm gonna keep out. It's addition, subtraction. Being aware of the the lighting conditions and the weather, the mood, everything. All really plays into it. Um, this one here, 4. Yeah. Sometimes, well, so I try. It's very easy. Everything here is digital. I switched. The last roll I shot was 2015 in Iceland. Uh, Kodak. It was Ilford and Kodak. I was shooting both films, whatever. But so I switched to digital, and the thing is, it's really easy. To, I could take 100 pictures of that scene, but at that point I'm just taking up space on my hard drives. So I do try. It's you can treat it like you treat film. Especially with how expensive film is today. I really line it up. I use my tripod. I'm usually always on a tripod, even in good light. And I have a geared head, so I can, you know, it's a Fuji 100. It's one of the bigger megapixel ones. They're all. Um, yeah, so I use a geared head so I can really be precise in the movements. So yeah, it's yeah, 4 or 5, if that. I really just try to get. I mean, you can see it in camera now. The cameras are great. It's like using a Polaroid. You can see what you're gonna get. Which you, when you get home and you look at it, it obviously changes. But yeah, I try to be pretty ruthless in my in how I compose and just try to really get it. But then once I do, one of the benefits I found of not having to worry about processing film or the cost of film, which is skyrocketing day by day, unfortunately. After I get it and I'm happy, I might move around and play, because that's it's supposed and have fun with it, because I think at the end of the day you have to enjoy what you're doing. It has to be fun. as frustrating as all this is, and all the, you know, all the terrible pictures you take, or all the ones you get, and you go, man, I think I really got something. And then you get home and you look at it, and it's, what was I thinking? uh, I have everything is, yeah, to a certain extent, but you want to see what's the Associated Press guidelines, where basically you can do contrast, maybe the light balance, and that's really it. You can crop, but you can't add anything or remove something. So I keep it pretty simple in my editing. Now I do, not to say I don't edit. I mean, there could be some burning and dodging in certain spots, but my rule is kind of like a 5-minute rule. So because digital is so easy to manipulate now, and you have so much control, you could start taking it in a direction that it's not even, it's a totally different thing now. Now it's a manipulation. So within 5 minutes, I'll import the photo, and I will do my basic edits, whatever I might need to do. And if it's looking good, then I'm okay. I think I got a keeper. But if I start working on it more and more after that, it's like I'm trying to put something there that's not there. Garbage in, garbage out. It's a common uh, saying with digital editing. So, yeah, there's always some editing somewhere, but I try to keep it transparent, so you're not seeing it. Sometimes it'll be within hours. Sometimes, but I've realized I'm coming to realize patience is not a virtue I really possess. Uh, but usually, Adam, within 48 hours. This is just putting on Instagram or Facebook. You know what I mean? So that doesn't really feel like it's present. I mean, this is a presentation. This is the final. When it's, for me, if it feels finished when it's in the mat and framed, like that's the best representation of it. You know. Uh, but yeah, I think they should marinate for some time. Because they do. Again, it's going to change so much and they do change. I could look at maybe one or two of these here now. I'm like, that should have been a little bit brighter. You know what I mean? But that always changes. There's a lot of photographers I hear that they might print contrasty one day and they're going to come back to it. But I mean, usually the process is, before I'm going to make, say, like a larger print, I will make a smaller one, an 8x10, and I'll stick it on a wall, and I'll just kind of let it live there for. I mean, it could sit up there for months. I have a couple there that are sitting in my office that I don't know. Do I like it? Am I unsure about it? So I'll let it sit. Depends on the image, but sometimes, yeah, I'll just when I get lucky, which isn't often. Uh, you know, there's one that just, I know it. It's there. So yeah. Well, like I say, it could be one little thing when I'm driving along that's going to catch my eye. It could be a ray of light, like here, over there, that the outhouse. Um, I really had to use the bathroom, so I was drawn to it. No, no, the light. So the first thing about that is that's catching my eye. The way the light's just falling. I just, it's something about it. I can't speak to it, but it's just, like I say, you're finding one little part, and then, like I say, the light might hit something in a way, and then I could work around it, and then I start noticing things that are there. They're going to work with it and work together, and then try to make a composition that just makes sense to me. And I didn't have a narrative with these. If anything, it was just seeing if I could stay local, fairly local, and also and make work. Because in the years before this, I would photograph. If I photographed once a year, I was lucky. I would, but it would be in Iceland, which is this magical place and these beautiful landscapes. And sure, it was great to photograph there. But I would get home and I wouldn't pick up a camera because I figured, oh, there's nothing here, which to me is, now thinking back at it, is just ridiculous. Andrew Wise. Ah, my God. Yeah, Andrew Wise. Yeah. In fact, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with him. I mean, his composition. Forget. I mean, I know his technique is often talked about how photorealistic it can be, but his composition to me is blows my mind. Well, the thing is, when I started with color again, it's very dangerous to overdo it. It's very easy. In fact, one thing I will do is I might tone down the saturation, just because anything, it just, especially with a lot of modern kind of color stuff, you see people and they really crank it up, and I don't want to. So there is part of that aesthetic, the black and white that I try to carry over, and just not. It's the thing is, you edit something, you might pull it in a certain direction, and then go, yeah, this is great, but even after that, you go, you know what? I'm just gonna pull back. It's always about pulling back, some restraint. I went back the last trip. I went in 24, and we were in Dubovik, which is this fantastic place up in the West Fjords, and the show was just amazing. And I had seen it. I'd photographed it, so I took a picture. There was a car on like an abandoned car, kind of under a street light, and you know, I took that, and the owner of the hotel laughed. He saw it online, and he goes, "You just had the most amazing light show, and you posted a picture of my cousin's broke down Subaru." He's like, "That's the great picture, man. Like, thanks." But yeah, no. After a while, I try to move on from doing the kind of obvious landscape work that I had spent a lot of time doing, and so I kind of went way up in the different direction. I mean, I never would have considered photographing half of these things years ago. And the answer is, well, where am I going to put them? And it's kind of true. And I just tend to avoid people, and there is a difficulty in doing kind of what I'm doing. Is I don't want everything to be just I mean, there's clearly things that are abandoned and in disrepair, but I don't want to make that the whole thing. I still want stuff that has life in it. Like here's a gas station over here. There's life to that. There's people. It's not shut down because I think so much of what it is just showing the decay. Am I making the decay charming? Probably. It's a yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I was thinking if you go out west, it's like they have the decay, only it's a little more colorful and charming.